Alright everyone, welcome to another episode of Vintage Bolton. Today I'm going to be polishing up a turntable platter, and specifically it's the Acoustic Research platter. Mine is the Acoustic Research XB, and it comes in two pieces, the sub platter and the outer platter. And I'm going to be using this bench grinder, which I've converted to a polisher with these polishing wheels. If you want to see how to do that, I'll leave a link above and below to that previous video. You know, I reckon that especially the edges of a platter perfectly suited to this tool. The problem with this AR platter is it's so filthy on top, both pieces. They used to have a mat stuck to it. So there's so much glue and residue left behind. It just doesn't look attractive at all. I'm also going to be polishing up the bearing, but not using the bench grinder because we don't really want to get polishing compound on these fragile bearings here and then get that into the bearing sleeve on the turntable. I had considered doing this by hand, and I think the edges is definitely something that's doable by hand for anyone with a lot of hand lapping and patience, with, you know, some sandpaper and polishing cloths. But these parts on top, that's going to be difficult. I reckon that anyone that's ever tried to do that probably started and went, nah, not by hand. Being this circular shape, I think ideally it would be awesome to get it onto a lathe, some sort of lathe, a metal lathe, and then the lathe would just turn around and then you just hold, you know, the abrasive material against it like Scotch-Brite. But I don't have that. I'm very lucky to have this new bench grinder, thanks to a family member who sourced it for me for nothing. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'm going to tackle the hardest part first, which is these flat parts. after a good hour, hour and a half of polishing with an abrasive wheel and a finishing wheel, I think that looks pretty damn good. Could go all day, but compared to what that was before, and I'll put up a before and after, I mean, that's all I could dream of, really. Yeah, there's definitely some pitting that runs along, but at least now it just doesn't have that ugly finish on top. And it's shiny! Got to clean them thoroughly, and then I'm going to tackle the bearing, which is basically just polishing up this semicircle bearing here, this ball bearing, which is fused into the main bearing. And the best way to tackle this is a piece of softwood, and with the bottom of the platter, create an indentation. It's not going to hurt it. And I'm going to start with some 800 grit metal sandpaper. You could use a bit of lube like WD-40 and just hand lap it. Swap over to the finer grit. I've got 3000 to finish it off. You are looking for a mirror finish, apparently. Well, I'm ecstatic about my first attempt at polishing a turntable platter. I'm gonna probably do another session on it, you know, just to really try and iron out those pits as much as I can and get all the polishing grain in the one direction, you know, circular. But I reckon that's the way to go for polishing my platters from now on. The edges are easy, I reckon. It's just those top parts. And at the end of the day, there's going to be a turntable mat on top, so it's not the end of the world, but I'd still love it to look as pristine as possible. If you've done it differently before, leave me a comment below. I'd love to hear more tips and tricks from people, because as I always like to say, I am an amateur and I'm learning as I go, as I create these videos, and I hope that they can help other people just the same way that all this information out on the internet helped me get started restoring things like turntables and speakers. Bye for now.